Alrighty, everyone, welcome to this podcast. You know who I am, E.T. Templar, Alien Crusader, and in this episode, we're talking about the recent Vaush stuff. Everyone's pretty much covered this to death, but let's get our little dancing aliens off the screen. Get out of here, you bunch of jive-ass bastards. So, Vaush, and what you're seeing here is pictures. For the podcast, we have Leon Trotsky, we have Lavrenti Beria, and then we have a picture of Vaush in there. So I have notes this time just to make it more organized, and I really want to do this. So, of course, the third picture on the slideshow there is Vaush himself. He does look like Leon Trotsky. He fashions himself to be a Leon Trotsky. But in reality, he's more like a Lavrenti Beria. So Lavrenti Beria was a head of Stalin's NKVD back in the day. And of course, he was shot for treason. And he was also shot because he raped people. So again, Lavrenti Beria shot for treason, shot for being a rapist. And of course, Leon Trotsky died via ice axe. You heard that right. The dude caught an assassin snuck into his house because I think they tried shooting him and it didn't work out. So Leon Trotsky and Beria were statistics or made statistics by the communist regime that they helped to build. So Vaush should again count himself lucky that he's on this side of the hourglass. Because if he was alive during the Russian Revolution in 1917, or alive during the 1930s to 1950s under Joseph Stalin, he would have been put up against the wall. And with this ideology of communism, socialism, and even by his democratic socialism, there's this idea that the bourgeoisie are these rich plutocrats and they engage in degenerate behaviors, and it's basically all bullshit to make the rich, middle class, and moderate successful to be these degenerate, sex-having, orgy-having, just like pedophiles. It's basically what they use to start class warfare, and it's doubly rich because with this you have Destiny, you have Vaush, and you have Hassan Piker. And they all come from rich families. They're silver spoon socialists. These aren't people, these aren't guys who started off working in their factory, a farmer or a miner. No, these are rich champagne socialists. And by their own ideology and their own communist bullshit, again, they would have been the ones put up against the wall and turned into a statistic. It's just historical fact because they're from the ruling class and the bourgeoisie by their own definition. And not only that, so Vaush, by their definition, bourgeoisie, and he profits off the proletariat that he claims to be fighting for. Now, I don't know if these guys actually donate to charities or get involved in that, but something tells me that they're just using the idea of leftism, communism, Marxism, democratic socialism, whatever bullshit angle they're running with. They're using it to line their own pockets. They don't really care because in all reality, you think these champagne socialists, these dipshit communists who type out stuff on iPad, tablets, and laptops, you really think they're willing to give up the comforts of capitalism? Of course not. And that's why there hasn't been a communist revolution here in America, because these people are so pampered, so comfy. See, when you compare it to the Russian Revolution in 1917, these were people who were fucking starving. These were people who could barely hold it together. And most of them did starve under a communist regime, so they were used and exploited by the Politburo and communists to raise up against the czars, the bourgeoisie, and in the end, they become victims themselves. I mean, I think historically, there was even loyalists to Stalin who were accused of treason, and when they were being executed, they said, "Long live Comrade Stalin." So, again, these guys don't give a shit about the proletariat, the struggling, the working, the blue-collar people. They just care about lining their own pockets. It's the same thing with Nick Fuentes. And within both these groups, none of them are going to have the balls, the energy, the strength, or resolve to actually resist the federal government or try and set up their perceived bullshit ideas of political idealism. It's just not going to happen. All these guys, they're all talk. All talk and no action. So, in closing with this section, the Bible says you will know them by their fruits. And of course, who comes into defense of Vaush? We have Tipster and we have Keffels. Now, of course, they're saying if you disagree with Vaush, you're a Nazi. And they say it's like this grand neo-Nazi conspiracy that, there's just so many Nazis taking out of context. There is no context. There is no out-of-context stuff. Vaush has been saying shit. Heinous, degenerate shit for the longest time. And I'll put this screen up here. You won't be able to see anything because, again, people... This screenshot's been making its rounds. But I'll just put it up anyway. So this is the screenshot from the stream. Sorry for the people who are listening to the podcast version. But it's all pixelated. Because no one in their right mind is going to show this on YouTube, and no one's going to expose anyone to this vile shit. And it wasn't just for a joke. Tipster is defending Vaush, saying it's some sort of joke, and we should forget about it. But I want to put forward a reverse, thinking experiment to this. So let's say if this was a high-value conservative commentator, you really think they would allow that to be forgotten? No, but they want people to forget because Vaush is wears their political pants. He wears the same political uniform, and they want this buried. And what I'm trying to say here is Vaush tried to explain this away as goblin porn in air quotes. He tried to explain away as he didn't know what it was. But here's the thing when it comes to explicit material. No one ever oopsie doodles, I clicked on the wrong thing or saved the wrong file. This is intent. If we were to compare this to a murder, right? You're not going to say oopsie doodles, I shot someone, right? Because that's murder, or I think it's called neglectful homicide. Something like that. I'm not a lawyer, but there is something where it's negligent homicide. So it's still murder by definition. So Vaush is trying to wiggle out, saying he didn't know, and that the artist who made it. So he commissioned this. By the way, he commissioned this artwork specifically. It wasn't he's saying that the person who made it was a Lolicon enthusiast. He had to commission this, which that means he wanted these details in this vile shit that he leaked on a stream. So Tipster and Keffels are going to try and tell people that this was a joke, that it got out of hand, and that we should all forget it. No, we shouldn't forget this. Vaush should be held to the same accountability as everyone else. See, if this was a right commentator that did this, I'd be coming at him just as hard with the opinions and shit. And by the way, people who are into this shit, again, this is YouTube, so we'll just say they should be made a statistic. So, of course, I don't want to say too much, but we all know what happens to hirelings and those who harm children. They get what's coming to them at some point, if not in this life, in the next. And again, I'm no communist. I did mention the proletariat, the bourgeoisie, and their idealism. I do have Inside the KGB by Oleg Gordievsky, and I actually have a 1930s Communist Manifesto that I have read. So I'm real versed with the source material of communist Marxist bullshit. It's all exploitation of the working class to get them to overthrow and get out the bourgeoisie and the ruling class, for them to be the ruling class, the Politburo and all this shit. It has nothing to do with liberation of the worker. That's all just lies and horseshit. It really is. And again, this has to be stated. Vaush, Destiny, and Hassan Piker, they all have rich parents. They're not from a factory worker. They're not from the steel mills of like Pennsylvania. They're not from the miners of Kentucky or West Virginia. These people are silver spoon socialists. And they're just in this as a political grift. It's just much like Nick Fuentes. And these people, like when you look at the original revolution in the 1917s, right? You had people who were starving to death and freezing to death in the streets. They had no other options. And that's why they rebelled in communism, thinking that idealism was for them, that it was going to liberate them, that everyone was going to be equal. But at the end of it, Stalin became the dictator. And there's this historical fact that's pretty interesting with this, that it's just so fascinating that even when Stalin was having his purges of his own communist like comrades, they were saying "Long live Comrade Stalin" as they were executed in jail cells and by firing squads. So again, these people are political grifters. They're predators, and if you are part of their camps, at least just try and think for yourself. But then again, people who are part of these groups, whether it's Vaush or Nick Fuentes, they're going to justify it. And I already saw this with the first video I did this. They hand wave away whatever disgusting, vile shit they do. And they say, oh, he disavowed him. And was that before or after he took money from Ollie Alexander? I think I got the person right this time. But yeah, both camps, it's just political grifting. One's hard left, one's hard right. It's political grifting. These two schmucks, these two groups are never going to rebel against the United States government because you'd have to be fucking retarded. Both these groups, they're just in it for the grifting. To make money. That's it. You're never going to see Vaush, Destiny, or Hassan Piker out there in the streets like putting their skin in the game or their lives on the line. Same thing with Nick Fuentes. The closest he got on July 6th was he hung outside while everyone else took the risk and got busted inside the Capitol. So these people are predators. They'll sell you upriver for a Klondike bar. And that's that. And that's Vaush. Vaush is just trying to weasel his way out and say it's comedy and that he's into like goblin porn or some shit. But we can't let him off the hook. Again, if this was a right-leaning person, could you imagine how Tipster and Keffels would react? They'd be eating that shit up. They'd be out heading down to Home Depot for lumber and nails to crucify whoever was that they caught or leaked this kind of vile degeneracy. But again, just because Vaush has their same political color uniform, they're going to try and okay it and justify it and shrug it off as, oh, isn't this funny? Which it really shouldn't. And again, it's just funny to see Tipster come out and like defend Vaush so hard. When everyone knows what's up, like Tipster and Keffels, like everyone know what's going on here, Vaush is a sick fuck. You're not going to pull the wool over our eyes. You're not going to hoodwink us because the truth is there. Broad daylight. And it's not comedy. It wasn't a comedic routine. He fucked up. And he deserves everything that's coming to him. I'm not getting, advocate anything. I'm just saying karmically and universally and by the rules of what, my Christian God, he's going to be judged for it. And even though it was fictional art, in air quotes, if it's even in that format, that should be alarming to anyone. And especially with the horror stuff and like zoo shit. Yeah, it's just so vile and degenerate. But anyways, that's enough of that. And yeah, that's Vaush and Destiny and Hassan Piker. They're all charlatan fucks, and they're all just using gullible idiots. They're taking their money in the name of political progress and political idealism. None of these fuckers give a shit about anyone but themselves. And that's that. And if you are giving money to these people, sorry, you're a fool. And you should be using that money for your own survival, prosperity, and your own political survival, not by giving more money to these overprivileged silver spoon champagne socialists. And I'll see you next time. Take it easy. God bless. And see you next time.